I remember I was walking up these stairs at this rugby game, and this guy calls out like, "Yo, Finn, how you going, mate?" And he called me up to hang out with him. I spoke to this guy, and we ended up hanging out all through that night. And we ended up like getting really close, and we texted a bit more. And I hung out with him in Australia. Turns out we lived in the same place in Australia. I ended up making more friends who I was really close with in Australia from Hong Kong, from my holidays, just because I had a better rep here. And that's when I realized it's so easy to meet new people, make so many connections when you're already like doing well, when you already have your close friends who back you no matter what. And then everything else comes so easily. And the hardest part is making like those few friends who will back you properly and stick with you. I'm gonna get into that in a second. But before I do, I'm Finn, and I help young guys make really good friends. If you want my step-by-step guide on how to do this, the link's in the description. This guy, he came from middle school to high school, and there's this orientation meeting with like the boys that were in my boarding house. And one of the boys in my year, in my boarding house, was going around telling all of the year below, "Oh, that guy, he's a fucking dickhead, no one likes him, he's an asshole," just brutally shit-talking me. And my friend, he didn't say anything at the moment, but then when all of his friends were privately, he was like, "Yeah, that guy's a dickhead, like, he's been mean to me, he was defending me, telling all of his friends, like, no, he's actually a good bloke, I've known him a long time." That's when I realized, just because people don't want to be friends with losers doesn't mean that they're not going to be loyal to you if you have like a moment where you're being a loser. Like, I was objectively a loser at school. People didn't like me, everyone was rude to me, but he didn't care because he knew that I was the kind of guy who, I was actually a good bloke. Like, I was a winner in a sense. Like, I went to the gym, I was really nice to be around, I had friends, I had normal social skills. And so he backed me because he's like, no, that's not the version of him I knew. But that made me realize you can't be like objectively a loser and say, "Oh, why does no one want to be friends with me? Why does no one cool want to be friends with me?" Because you need to realize that people only want to be friends with value, even though it's like a little bit shallow. People, like every relationship has some kind of like, at the back of your mind, someone usually always wants some kind of transaction, if they consciously know it or subconsciously know it. And that's all right because everyone's doing that anyway. So why do we just pretend it's not happening, which is fine. I pretend it's not happening, and I don't need to like get a lot of value from my friends. But I know that like I'm not gonna hang around somebody who's gonna make me more sad, who's lazy, who's never gonna do anything in their life, and that's all right. And you should be like all right with saying that as well. You should want friends who are like you're both on a similar level, or at least like if you've been close to someone for a long time, you stay loyal with them and you try and help them. You know, this got me thinking though, because I was thinking like, is popularity a good thing? It's a bit of a myth, right? But this made me rethink it. One day I was on the phone with my friend and he was saying, I said, "Oh, do you know this guy?" Because I'm in Hong Kong, he's from the UK. It's like, "Oh, do you know this guy from the UK?" He told me like, "Yeah, I know him. He goes to this posh school. He's the first soccer player. He's like, he's arrogant. He's a bit of a dickhead. He's a bit up himself." And, you know, at first I thought like, yeah, you know what? Like, he's like the exact definition of one of these popular guys. But then when I was speaking to him, it reminded me like, because I went to this New Year's rugby game, and he was there, and I was chatting to him. And this is one of the only times I've got to see him when he's like properly sober. And he was so much more relaxed than like on the nights out. I'm assuming we all get pretty carried away and we're drinking and we exaggerate stuff in our mind. But he was super mellow. He was super funny. He like had great humor. We were laughing like half of the day. And it made me realize there was no like downside to being a popular guy. Like, this guy will get attention from girls. He'll get invited to parties. He's not even doing badly in school. He's getting good grades, according to him. Like, he may be lying, but I'm going to take his word for it on this case. And he's in really good shape. And that made me think like really, really deeply. Maybe being popular is such a W win. It's so hard to get as well that the people who don't have it just hate on it. Say, no, popularity is awful. Popularity is not all that. I don't hear any popular person complaining about it unless they don't have their life in order. If you can like go to the gym, study well, or like do whatever, achieve your goals, and you have loads of friends, I'd take that every single day over any other option, bro. Because when you're respected by your peers, you have so much of a better life. You get away with so much more. it's just a way better life quality. I remember the first time I met this guy at my school, and I went up to him and we are speaking, and we had a great chat. He's like, "Yeah, it's really nice to meet you," and we're talking about like some girls in our school, and we're bonding in some sense, right? I could tell this guy liked me immediately, but like a week later, I could tell it was literally one day I went home from school, and the next day I was there, and he was just like really cold towards me. It wasn't because he was super tired this day. It's because he had heard some rumor about me or some dumb shit, or someone had told him, "Yeah, no one likes me." And he was distant from me. He didn't treat me the same. He never treated me the same ever again from that point. You can tell when you meet somebody and they fuck with you instantly, and they like talking to you, and you're like one of the boys. And then some rumor happens, or something happens, somebody says something about you and they don't view you in that same way. And that shit hurts because, bro, if you have never felt what it's like to be at school and like, or be in a social event and people like, you're that chill dude that everyone likes, you know? Everyone wants to come speak to you. People come and laugh and make jokes with you. People tell you secrets. People like, you're that guy, you know, that one guy at school who everybody told him their secret and he would always like keep it quiet to himself and everybody wanted to be around him. When you have a moment where you feel like that and you lose it, that is the most fucking horrible feeling ever because it's like everyone respected you so much. It's such an elite feeling. And then all of a sudden that's ripped straight away, straight out of your hands. And that made me think, if you've got a bad rep, why is that, right? Is it because you're not in good shape? Is it because you have nothing about you that people can respect? Is it because you're kind? Is it because you're way too sensitive? You take every joke too serious? It may be one of these things. It may be bad luck, potentially. But then I had an experience where I was on the other side of this. There was this guy at my school. And, when I was like, let's say lower social hierarchy, let's just, for lack of a better word, there's this guy who, he was like, skinny dude, bit ugly, pretty weird. And I would sit next to him in maths class for a little bit and we would have some laughs because he was also from Hong Kong. But the second I go back to Hong Kong, I remember he knew one guy in my friend group at the time with like 10 guys. And one guy asked me if he could come. And since I had like kind of planned it, I said nah, because this guy was a fucking loser, bro. The only reason I was hanging out with him is because I didn't have anyone else to hang out with. You know what? If someone's a loser, but I can tell they're loyal, they're super kind, they're getting better, that's different. But this was a case of like I didn't think he was like a loyal friend. I didn't think he was like a good mate who would stick by you in hard times. I thought he was just a dickhead, And so I chose not to invite him. And he ended up getting really fucking upset and treating me like shit for the next few months, which just proved my point. Like any good bloke would have just said like, "Oh, fair, maybe he didn't want me." Like they would have just kept to themselves. They wouldn't have like outwardly tried to take the piss out of somebody for the next 3 months just because they were so upset that they didn't get invited to one thing. Even though I had invited him to one of the big parties, I just didn't want him coming to my smaller friend group meet. This guy made a big deal out of it. And that told me it's all right, when some people treat you badly. It made me think, yeah, but what would I do on the other side of this? Because sometimes there's people who you really don't want to be around, who you don't trust, who aren't like, I don't want to hang out with somebody who can't even go to the gym or is in like awful physical shape, isn't even funny, isn't happy. Like that's just the most L human being of all time. And unless they used to be doing really well and something fucked happened and now I'm backing them, they're my guy, I need to help them, I need to help them get back. If they don't want to get back, and it's also something that if they can control it, bro, if it's a choice, they're just being lazy by choice, then I don't really want to be friends with them, or I don't want to be as close with them. That doesn't mean I'm going to be offensive. So I wanted I wanted you to think about this, because this was a big limiting belief I had when, people didn't like me at school. Maybe I should have just admitted, like, yeah, maybe I have some shit to work on. Maybe it's my personality. I was in the gym, I was studying a lot. Maybe I could have been a bit nicer to some people. I probably got quite unlucky in comparison to a lot of people going through this experience, because I had already had some friends and some social experiences at home, and I just got a really bad, like, first impression at this new school. But I guess there was no harm in ever reflecting and saying, oh, I can improve on this. And I did. I got into way better shape. I got way better grades. I was way nicer to people, and people ended up liking me. So clearly I made the right adjustments. I made some really good friends. Thank you for watching this video, bro. I feel you. If, sometimes people don't treat you with that much respect, I know what it's like to be there. And if you want my step-by-step guide on how I got to a point where I don't feel like that at all, I love my life, I love my friends, then click the link in the description and see if you're interested. Have a good day, bro.